Yeah, I mean, when I hit 10 years, the pandemic hit. So I was about to be on the road more than ever. So like I was booked more than ever that year.
Everyone was about to blow up right before the
pandemic. Of course,
pandemic.
right? Everyone is like, yeah, the pandemic held me back.
Man, my career was taking off. No, but I believe you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. No, I really appreciate the words of affirmation there. Hot breath. What's goody, Hot Breathiverse? Welcome back to Hot Breath, the show where you learn comedy from the pros. I am your host, comedian Joel Byers, and our whole goal here is to help cultivate the next generation of great comics. And our guest today just recorded her first comedy album after 10 years in the game and giving up a career as a teacher, award-winning teacher in the inner cities of Chicago. She gave up 2 master's degrees to pursue this crazy dream of comedy, and now she is here. Ladies and gentlemen, hot brethren and sisterin, welcome to the show. Amy Shanker, everyone. Welcome to the show. Yes, cue applause.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Wow, you almost made me regret quitting teaching with what you
You did it for you did like 13 years,
yeah,
so it was like a whole
years
career.
Of it, yeah. Day one, I was like, I fucked up. I was
Day
like, I gotta
one?
get out of here, yeah. Yeah, I walked in, I was like, oh, what have I done?
And then you did it for 13 years.
Yeah, because I couldn't.
Oh my.
I kept trying to find other jobs, but like everyone was like, well, you work with kids, so how could we possibly use you? I was like, well, they're like technically 18. So they're not children.
That's funny with the opposite of like when we as comedians do comedy, like first day, we're like, oh, this is it forever. I'm ruining my life to pursue comedy.
Right.
And you I guess you gave up a career. Did you do comedy while you were a teacher, or did they
Yeah, I did. I started comedy after my brother's wedding because I gave like a speech at his wedding, and it was I had so much fun. I was like the 17th speech. My uncle was sleeping. And when I was done, everyone was like, keep going. I was like, I didn't write anything else. Yeah, but afterwards they're like, you're in the wrong field. Like, you should be doing this or that. And I was like, yeah, I mean, maybe I'll try stand up. And I went back to Chicago where I lived at the time and did a mic and was like, I don't know, I did it once and like probably a week later, I was like, maybe I'll do it again. And so I would say I did it like once every week or 2 weeks for probably 6 months, and then was like, if I'm going to do it, like, just do it. And then I just started going every night. And
while you were a teacher, you were going every night?
yeah, it was exhausting. I was like getting like 4 hours of sleep. I think I gained like 30 pounds just from like not sleeping at all and working. Basically, I was getting up at like 6:30 in the morning, working all day, going home, taking like an hour or 2 nap, going to mics, going to shows, staying out, schmoozing, doing all that, and then napping and doing it all over again. So,
and this isn't just like you're not going and like washing dishes. You're like in charge of the youth.
Yeah,
of America.
Yeah,
in the inner city of Chicago.
Yeah, inner city. It was high school seniors basically, and so they were eventually they're like, what are you doing? And some of them like saw me on the internet, and so I was like hiding everything. But I mean, now honestly, when I go home, still I quit teaching like 8 years ago probably, and my kids my old students still come out to shows and stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really neat.
How long into teaching? So I'm trying to do the math. So like, how long into teaching did you do comedy before you quit?
I did comedy for like 3 years while I was teaching.
Wow.
Yeah, it was exhausting.
So you were on that grind for like 3 years.
Yeah. And I don't think I could do it again like that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because that was hard. Like because like you said, I'm not just walking into a job and like just standing and washing dishes or what. It's like I have 30 kids in my face at 8 in the morning, just like, what are we doing? I'm like, God, I don't know, man. What did we do yesterday?
We're watching a movie again. It's movie day.
A lot of movies.
So what got you over the fear? Because I think a lot of people, especially a lot of people that listen to this, have thought about trying comedy, but they haven't taken the leap to actually get on stage. How did you like overcome that inertia to like actually do it?
One thing that people would say about me when I started, and I think that teaching really did help.
Yeah.
And especially where I taught, because like you couldn't really, if you don't have like classroom discipline and stage presence, like you're not gonna be able to control a classroom full of teenagers. And so like that part I kind of just developed while teaching over the years. And so like other comics would be like, look, I'm like listening to you and you have my attention, but like you haven't, there's no jokes. I'm like, well, I don't know that part yet.
Yeah.
Like getting up wasn't hard, but telling the jokes was like impossible. And I would just like, and I was an English teacher, and so for me like writing was everything, and I would just write my jokes word for word, verbatim, and try to kind of memorize it, and go up and just do that. And but there are like, you know, just little tricks of the trade that when you're first starting out, I guess would help, like who you deliver jokes to, you know, and getting the women on your side first, especially as a woman. Like you don't want to go up on stage and like flirt with the dudes because they're on dates with women, and then the women aren't gonna laugh because they're like, what are you doing, like flirting with this guy that I'm on a date with? And if the women aren't laughing, the men are gonna stop laughing because they want to have sex. Like, they're like, I'm going home with her, not you. So, yeah, just like little things, delivering the joke, like easy jokes to like the harder laughers, you know, and delivering like harder punchlines to the easy laughers, because laughter, you know, catches. So
Yeah, it's contagious.
yeah, just like little things like that, I think help out when you're first starting. Just yeah.
Yeah, and I think preparing, especially early on for me, preparing off stage really helped when I got on stage to have more confidence of like, oh, maybe if this joke didn't hit, I know what's next. I'm not like concussed because one joke missed, and I can move on to the next thing and just keep going instead of just crying, basically.
I also would write outs in my jokes, like places where I can just like naturally bail on it.
Oh, interesting.
Because I tend to do more story form. And so if it's like not going well, or it's a new joke and I don't want to, you know, ruin my confidence in what I think it can be, I'm like, this crowd's not feeling it, I don't want to do it. So I'll just kind of naturally like bail in an area that seems fine and go on to something else.
So like you'll know parts within your stories that if this doesn't get a laugh, do you have a joke about it not working, or like what is the out, or you just like bail?
No, sometimes I can't. Sometimes I'll have a joke if it's like going horribly. Yeah, I mean address that for sure. But like, I tend to split my jokes up into sections, and so when I'm trying to memorize a joke, I'm more so memorize like, this section is about this section's about this, and then from there take it. And so like each section I can kind of bail if I need to, basically. Like I'm writing a joke right now about dinosaurs.
Okay.
Which is, I don't know, it takes on a life of its own every time I do it, but it's like just different parts to it. Like I'm talking about how they have sex in one part. And I'm talking about like how they the meteors in another part, and like a conversation that a dinosaur has with his dinosaur mom in a different part. So it can just like, I can just end it at each of those parts.
Oh, that's cool.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that how you write a story? Because like I started out with one-liners, and then like I've grown into like larger bits, but I would like to do more storytelling. It's something I don't really have confidence in right yet.
Yeah.
But is that how you kind of piece them together? Is kind of like, you want to talk about this topic, but you kind of just tackle it one piece at a time instead of this whole like long thing?
No. Okay, so the first time I go up, what I do, if it's a story, and my stories all stem from like stuff that's just happened to me or my family, and so I just tell the story bare bones. I don't put jokes in it.
At a comedy show.
Yeah,
you're willing to be like, I'll stay up here and just say this without any laughs just to get the story out.
Yeah, 100%. I'll just tell the story exactly as it happened. I don't amp anything up really, and I don't tag anything. And I just tell the story. And it's pretty, I mean, I can be funny just talking, so I'm not like hugely worried about it. But then what I do is I go and listen to see where like the laughs happen, you know, naturally. And then I build those up, and then where they don't happen at all, if it needs to be in there, I just make it as short as possible. If it's just information they need to know just to understand the joke, you know, and I can't figure out how to make it funny, I'll just like, okay. Then, but if it's And if it's something that I'm like, this could be funny, I'll just start working on it to make it a little bit better. But if it's just like, filler, like I cut it.
So like, what did you learn? Because when you first started, you were like, I'm performing, but I'm not doing jokes. What did you learn about joke writing that kind of unlocked like, oh, here's how to write a joke? Or like, what is your approach to like, oh, this is how I can actually make something funny, like your joke writing?
I tend to do, like, if I can't, one thing that does help me if I'm just really, really stuck is I make a list of like 10 things where I just like write. I don't have any rules to it. Like if I'm trying to find a tag or a comparison, let's say, and I just write a list of 10 things because eventually one of those 10 things is going to be the thing. But not limiting myself to what I write down just kind of allows my brain to go in a lot of different places that it wouldn't normally. And so a crazy, like, let's say I'm going back to the dinosaur thing, like let's say I'm doing something about how dinosaurs have sex, so, and I'm trying to think of like a third thing that's funny because I land on doggy style, and I'm like, why do we even call it doggy style? Like it should be called dino style.
Dino style, that's what I was
and then like, and then I'm like, what else would we call it? And I would just like write a list of 10 different things that we could possibly call it, and like maybe get something from that instead.
Gotcha. Yes. So, okay.
Also joke shopping with like friends, like we'll talk all the time. Comic, you can't have a serious conversation.
Yeah.
You can't even like talk about you're like a dead dad without a comic being like, oh yeah, what about?
Of course. Yeah, of course.
So it's just everyone always jokes. But yeah, I mean, sometimes it just comes to you randomly. There's also jokes that like you're just not ready to tell yet because you don't have the skills, I have some jokes I'm definitely not there yet. Or stories that I would like to develop, but I can't do it yet, but I would.
That's what keeps it exciting, though. It's like we're always striving for more and developing and getting better and better.
Yeah, like the next thing.
Yeah. But I think that's a good note of you're willing to put in the work of it. Sometimes a joke just happens, and you're like, oh, thank you, comedy world. But a lot of the times it is, okay, I have an idea. Now I need to list 10 things that you're willing to put in that work. I guess which comes maybe from your maybe teaching or just English and writing background of like, I know to get to the good stuff, I'm going to have to go through 20 terrible things to find it.
Yeah, probably. And I've gone so many different directions with jokes so many different times. And the thing about like when you're first starting out is it's like, well, it's a different audience every time. So how do you know? But it's like, it's kind of the same audience though every time. Like people are gonna laugh generally at the same stuff, So it's not really ever gonna be like the audience, like one audience that's like, this was perfect, and the next one's gonna be like, this was horrible. Like,
yeah, it's a law of averages. I mean, I've done shows at a club where 8 o'clock killed, and I do the same set 10 o'clock, and it's like crickets,
or they're just hammered.
Yeah,
like,
and I was too young in the game to know how to like pivot,
navigate that.
I just had a set, and I'm like, I'm doing this word for word. Both shows, and then 10 o'clock, nothing, but I did the same thing word for word and just kept going through it.
You just push.
You don't know anything better. You just, because I was verbatim word for word for a long time.
Oh, 100%.
Like just written like, and the final product is word for word, but I'm a little more organic now. But if I don't write, then like I have less to say on stage. If I'm trying to quote write on stage, if I'm not writing off stage, I have nothing to pull from in general.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like and even if I do like write so much, sometimes I still just go blank, and I'm like, what was I saying? Well, like, what was I going to say about this? I totally don't. And then I just go into crowd work.
Yeah, try to get the clip. Now you're
like, hey, buddy,
this is a good time to get a crowd work clip here, which is so funny. I just saw. Because I'm based in Atlanta, and I just saw a comic. Because like comics like Mark Norman and like Sam Morril, they'll do like their set, and then like crowd work of like, all right, yell something out, and I'll do crowd work, and then that's their content. So I saw like a younger comic try this at a show where he did his set, and then he's like, all right, someone yell a topic, and they yelled taxes, and he couldn't find anything funny about it, and then he got mad at the audience member. But I could tell he was trying to set up for like his crowd work clip.
And
I
he
was
just
like,
got
relax,
so mad.
just do your
Calm
set.
down.
Like,
everyone puts out crowd work clips now because they don't want like their material stolen. But it's like, just put out your material too. Like, I think you could do both. I think personally. I think that because who are you saving it for? You know, like if you don't put it out, someone else is going to.
And it's not like, I don't think people are gonna remember as
Right.
Like, I don't think,
And like you could say you're saving it for the album, but they're still gonna buy the album. Like they want to hear it all together, you
yep,
know?
they want to hear the final
Yeah.
piece and all of that. It's like when you recorded your album, how long did it take you to develop that material? Was this basically like 10 years leading up?
It's
to,
1 through 10, yeah. It's
basically,
like because I kind of split it into like 3 different parts, basically. Like if you look at my comedy, it's basically talks about teaching, like dating, and then like family and being Jewish and stuff like that. So it's like just boom, 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 and every joke I have will fall into one of those categories. And so I just took my favorites from those categories and did like an hour of it.
And then you had like, I mean, I know when I did mine, like I was in my hotel room, like I was just rehearsing it over and over. And how did you prepare for it? Was it that?
I mean, I was, it was more just memorizing the order that I wanted to do the jokes in, because I have some jokes that I can't do up top because they don't, like if the audience doesn't know you and I'm doing a joke about arming teachers and shooting kids, they're going to be like, what the whole fuck is wrong
Quite an
with
icebreaker,
this lady? Yeah. I'm like, I was shot at too, okay? But you can't say that after. Because they're like, I can see why. Yeah.
Especially where you taught. I mean, goodness gracious.
Yeah,
you live Dangerous Minds, like the movie Dangerous Minds.
People
like
say that a lot. Yeah, it was a little violent. It was a lot of breaking up fights, and I would rather. Yeah, I learned a lot. I don't know. I worked in a group home for like teenage boys while I was in college, who's like their alternative was juvie, and so I learned like a lot of like discipline techniques from that I would use during teaching that were probably illegal, I would assume, but you know. We'll have to look at the statute of limitations, and then for Illinois.
No, but your window had a bullet hole in it, so I mean, I think
did
you
a
should
couple,
be able
yeah,
to like
I mean,
rough them up a little bit. This is no.
you
rules.
had to like to break up these fights because they were just huge jumpings. Like I've seen one fight that was 1-on-1.
What made you? What made you? Like, I don't know, lack of a better term, but like be so service minded. Like if you're working with this group home and then you're teaching at like a school like this,
I don't know. Honestly, I kind of like fall into these things almost. Like my best friend growing up, Sarah Cashin, was job hunting when we were in college, and she called what she thought was a restaurant, and it was a group home. And she's like, oh yeah, I'm just coming I wanted to apply for a job. And they're like, oh, this is like O'Connell Youth Ranch is what it was called. And she's like, I thought it was this. They're like, no, we're hiring too, though. And she calls me. She's like, come with me. I'm like, okay. So we just both got jobs that day randomly. And they never trained us at all. We both worked in like these separate homes. There were like 8 boys living in each home. And they were like, you know, house parents. And then we would come in after classes and just like help them with their homework and cook dinner and like, you know, make sure that they were, you know, functioning as people. And it was so random. Like it was just a weird thing. But it was fun. I liked doing it. And I did learn a lot of like discipline stuff then that they really don't teach you in college, because how do you teach discipline really? And as a teacher, you can't really teach unless you have classroom management. And so to have that, I was coming from Kansas going to the inner city of Chicago. So it was a very different like switch, you know? And so that job really unknowingly like very much helped me. So, and then with teaching where I taught, I didn't really want to teach in the suburbs because I grew up in the suburbs. Like I didn't really need my teachers. I didn't need help from them. And I felt like I could make more of an impact, you know, elsewhere. So that's why I did that. But teaching, as far as like going into it, my counselor in college was like, you know, you have a lot of like English credits. You can either do journalism or education. I was like, journalism. She's like, education. I was like, no, well, all right.
Wow,
Like, what?
Glad to hear that that's where the teacher origin story is. It's like, oh, well, I guess I will. Might as well.
I was like, my passion for children. No, I didn't have that.
That's what I was waiting to hear. It's like,
No,
I've
none.
always just had a heart for...
No, I didn't. Not at all.
What's goody, Hot Breathiverse? If you're loving this episode and all the other awesome content you get here for free, then you are going to love our brand new Hot Breath VIP list. All you got to do to join is go to hotbreathpodcast.com/VIP, and you're going to get exclusive access to not just podcasts, but also other content like unseen interviews, merch drops, discounts, giveaways, and a lot more exciting things. And this is for everyone. If you're an aspiring or working comedian or just a comedy fan that loves getting those behind-the-scenes nuggets, you're going to love what we have here at the new Hot Breath VIP list. So go to the link in the description or join at hotbreathpodcast.com/VIP, and I'll see you there. Speaking of comedy, I've got to shout out the network behind this show, Big Laugh Comedy. They have been killing it in the Texas comedy scene, producing some of the biggest shows live and also podcasts like the one you're watching here. And even bigger news, Big Laugh is hitting the road, bringing their best comedians and shows to a city like yours. So do yourself a favor, join their VIP newsletter, and get exclusive access to not just when they're coming to your city, but also even more fun content and even comedy news. So all you got to do is go to blcomedy.com/VIP-HB or hit the link in the description. We'll see you there.
Kids are like, fine.
Yeah.
I've always worked with kids, though. I was a camp counselor for
I
a
was
long
too,
time. Yeah?
Yeah. One summer.
For
YMCA,
For the
yeah.
YMCA.
Mhm.
I did like Jewish community center camps, and then I did Camp Sabra, which is in the Lake of the Ozarks. It's a sleepaway camp.
Oh, yeah.
And we took our kids like hiking all over Colorado. I lived in a tent for 3 months. I have not been hiking since.
Yeah.
Or camping. I'll never do it again.
There's comedians who live in tents, so, it prepared you for that.
That should be a show. Comedians who live in tents
It's real.
getting coffee.
Yeah. That's really cool. I love hearing people who, like, some people start comedy when they're young, other when they're later in life. It's always interesting to hear people's origin story into comedy because you just never know.
Yeah.
It's like once you start, though, it's like this is what I'm
It's
doing
done.
forever.
Like it just really does take over, and it changes your whole life. It changes how you look at situations, how you approach people, how you go into things. Like it's a little nuts.
Yeah.
I can't think of another profession really, unless it's like being a hitman that like really changes your life in such a way that like everything you do, you're like outside of it, you're really it is still geared towards somewhat of a comedic aspect,
I wonder if that's the hesitation why a lot of people think about doing comedy but never do. Maybe because the fear of stage is one aspect, but maybe the fear of like how it's going to change their life and if they're willing to actually start living that lifestyle.
Yeah, I think that like the deeper you get into it, especially like going older or if you have a family, and it's like, is this worth the sacrifice because it's a huge sacrifice.
Yes.
Like, even like just dating, I don't know like your dating life, but like mine is fucked. So it's just like it's a difficult situation.
That sums it up. Yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah, because you either have guys that are like, "Oh, I'm as funny as you." You're like, "No, you're not."
Gross. Yeah.
You can't be. Or you have guys that are comics that you're like, I don't want to date a comic, or that, it's either a competition or it's just like the best are guys that are just like supportive, of funny women. Like that's cool. Like not, but it's rare.
Yeah, I mean, I'm married but we met in college, but then when she wanted to move to Atlanta, I had to tell her that like this is my life. Like I'm literally out every night, basically. So
Yeah.
if you're cool with that, I want to be transparent up front that it literally takes over your life. So you really have to find someone who understands that and has like is confident in that and doesn't feel neglected when you do have to go do this open mic at
the good
1
thing
a.m.
about you is that like comedy is a lot more like male dominated though, and so like you were going to a place where there was just tons of dudes, right?
Right.
But I'm also going to a place where there's just tons of dudes, and they're all funny. And so to a guy that's like maybe working a 9 to 5 in finance or something, he's just like, I'm sorry, you do what every night with who?
Oh,
That
yeah. That's, I don't think about that perspective because I am a dude. So I don't think about like, oh, yeah. I entered comedy as a straight white dude. The easiest entry into it possible.
Right.
Like
they're like, here's your
yeah,
red
basically.
carpet.
Yeah, for my wife, she's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, you look the part. Yeah. But then, you know, when you're 13 years in and she's like, oh, so you're going where? How much does it pay? What is happening?
How much
You
does
know
it
what
pay?
I mean?
That's the one.
So at a certain point, when you do comedy long enough, that it is like, all right, this is cool, this is fun, this is art, but it's also a job. So like at a certain point, you got to figure out that intersection between show and business, you know?
Yeah, and that's like the part that I think comics are the worst at is the business side because it's not fun. It's and most of us have like the worst ADD, and it's like the focus for the business side is hard. And most of the time when I'm focusing on the business side of it, it's because one of my comic friends is like, do this, and we just do it together. And I'll do it with another one, with another friend, you know? Because it's just like it's this whole entire industry on the comic side is very like self-motivated until you get help. And so.
But that's basically what this show, I've interviewed over 400 comics on here, and it's basically is me like, how did you do that? How can I do that?
Yeah.
It's I love, and I want like comics helping comics, and that's the whole intent of the community around the show. And it's cool to hear, like you said, a comic telling you, no, do this. And you're like, oh, cool, I'll do that. Oh, it worked, cool. And then you tell another comic and spread the word that way.
Yeah, even with like stuff like, oh, taxes, here's how I do it. You should do it like this, and just download this app, and then just every single time, just click, click, click. And you're like, oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
That seems so much easier than what I've been doing, which is just taking receipts and shoving them into this teddy bear.
I was going to say, which is fraud.
In it anymore.
It's been easier than tax evasion. Yeah. Was that QuickBooks? Is that what you use?
Yeah.
The self-employed?
Yeah,
me
yeah.
too. Yeah, that's a game changer.
And then like the whole like LLC stuff and all of that, like it just gets like, when do you do it? And like everyone's like, now you should have done that years ago. I'm like, oh fuck, okay.
Yeah. So you can start writing off stuff. And
Exactly. So yeah, I just did my taxes every year I do them, and I'm like, this is probably wrong.
Yeah.
Right. You send them in, and then they're like, this is wrong.
Yeah. But the good thing, the self-employed thing, they'll tell you like your audit risk and things like that. So like,
oh, do they?
yeah, because I'll do the self-employed and then I'll file it through TurboTax, and it'll give me like a reading of like, what is your audit level risk? So my wife can sleep at night, basically. Yeah. But maybe it's different if I'm filing jointly. I don't know. I should have an accountant on here to just like break down.
You honestly, that would be a very
because for
thing.
Comedians, I mean, half of what we get paid in is like it's like dollars with like cocaine residue on them.
Right,
you know,
dollars
like,
and drink tickets, and it's like I can't.
Like chicken tenders. Is this a write-off? You know, I don't know. How are you approaching like the business side? Because you've been doing it 10 years, and it's kind of at a point in my career where I was like, all right, 10 years, I released this comedy special. It's like I should start to take this more seriously. What are you doing?
Yeah, that's kind of. I'm at your point. I'm at that point right now where I'm like, I need to get a bit of a firmer hold on this part of it, like the cash money side.
The making it sustainable. Yeah.
Yeah, because it is like. The way we get paid is crazy, first of all. It makes no sense.
Yes.
There's no like just set this is how comics get paid.
Every
like,
2 weeks you get this on Friday. It's always
different, right?
Yep.
And there's and it's feast or famine, and so and I'm horrible with saving money, and so like if I get the money, I'm like, who wants money? And then I'm like, oh, shit. It's famine time. It's brutal. Yeah, I need to basically. Thank you. That'll be my afternoon.
Oh yeah, I don't.
Here.
Yeah, I mean, when I hit 10 years, the pandemic hit, so I was about to be on the road more than ever. So like, I was booked more than ever that year.
Everyone was about to blow up right before
of
the
course,
pandemic.
right? Everyone is like, yeah, the pandemic held me back.
Man, my career was taking off.
On.
Everyone said that. Yeah. No, but I believe you.
Oh, thank you, thank you. No, I really appreciate the words of affirmation there.
I was like, does this sound like I'm making fun of you?
No, I didn't take it as that.
Okay, good.
But I appreciate you clarifying that.
Can we cut that?
We need to keep that. That's the clip. That's the intro. We need that as the opening hook. Like, I believe
God.
you.
No,
You
I
can do
believe
it.
you.
You can do it. You start clapping. You're like turning to a teacher again. You've got this.
Oh, that was not me.
You're
as a
not like the
teacher.
rest. Oh no.
No, I was like, you are all of them. You are all the same. Except you brought me lunch today, and I do appreciate that.
That's cool. You didn't
So-
hit on me. I appreciate
No,
that.
that never was a conversation I got to have. Just hot ass teacher. No, what they would do, what my students would do is they wouldn't hit on me normally, but then when they would graduate, then they would be like, just so you know.
Wow.
They would email me or like on Instagram or Facebook. It's hilarious, but
Bruh. No, my mom was a teacher. She taught an alternative school. So it was kids that got like expelled from other schools that would go
Yeah.
to this school, I think, instead of juvie.
Yeah.
So it made me think of where you're teaching and what you did before teaching of like, oh, well,
Right.
what was the origin there? Like the motivation.
we used to have a juvie school like in our school.
Oh, gee,
So it
like a
was like
holding cell.
Yeah, it was
like
like a whole other school within the school, basically.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and we would just it was a rough one. That was a hard class. They would have they had like bars on the windows and stuff. The kids were tough kids.
What were the shows like you were doing as well? Because in Chicago, I mean, I know in Atlanta, I did a lot of like I've talked about this on the podcast, but I was White Boy Joel. I did a lot of the hood rooms. I'd be the only white person in the neighborhood. And like, I don't know what
That's
the
a
shows
good
were like in
question.
Chicago.
I think Chicago is one of the most, for a big city, it's one of the most segregated cities in America, probably.
Wow.
You know, still like you have, and in comedy, you have in Chicago, you have like, the white comics are kind of north side, black comics are more south side, and then Latino comics are more like west side, and so you do have three separate scenes almost.
Wow.
And they're trying to bring them together a lot more. My whole goal when I started comedy is that I wanted my material to work in every single room in Chicago without really changing the joke at all, you know. And
Yeah,
so,
me too. Yeah.
yeah, and I was able to get that, and so I was like, all right, if I can do that, then I know that I'm like, my writing is pretty good, right? So because if you're able to reach like not just different like you know, black people, white people, Latino people from all over the place, but like people from like different socioeconomic statuses, like people just from different backgrounds growing up, like all of that, if they're able to laugh at your stuff, like I think that's like you're doing it right, probably.
Agreed. Well, what was one of your like worst bombs? Have you ever gotten booed or anything like that?
Oh, I got booed. I got booed recently.
Recently?
Yeah, and but it was like, it was so funny because they were like just anti-Semitic, basically.
Oh my God.
I did Jewish material. Oy vey. Big time. Oy, Gewalt, it's the big one. It's I said I was Jewish, and this guy was like, an older guy goes, "Oh, when's your train coming?"
Oh.
And I go, I think he thought I would just like be like, okay. And I go, I just stopped the show and I turn, I go, "What did you just say to me?" And he was silent. And I go, "Did you just ask me when my train was?" I went straight into teacher mode. I was like, "Did you just ask me when my train was coming?" And he goes, "Yeah." I go, "Oh, because like to take me back to the Holocaust in time. Did you want me to go back to the 40s?" And he goes, "I didn't mean it like that." And I was like, "Are you autistic?" And he goes, "No." I go, "Buddy, it's one or the other." So, you tell me, huh? And his wife was just like, "This is horrible."
God.
And then at the end of that set, another couple, I go, "Well, I gotta go." And this woman goes, "To hell."
Oh
at her,
my.
I go, no, sweetie, hell is the place that Jews invented to keep you Christians in check. I go, I guess we got to tweak it. And then her husband booed me. I go, boo you, bitch. And then I walked off the stage. And I don't, it didn't go great.
Yeah. You
But I'm
handled it
like,
well, it sounds like.
but I feel like it was the weakest boo. It was the best boo situation I could have gotten, probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've had like fights break out in the audience when I've been on stage. When I was like too new to be able to handle it, like I had no clue. I just heard like so much stuff going on in the back of the room, and I'm just like, and then
Yeah. You're just still doing. You're just going through your material.
You're just going through, and your friends are just like, because you're still new, so they're just coming to watch, and they're excited. And then shit happens you can't handle.
You're just doing you're in monologue mode. You're just standing there like this. You can't react or pivot or anything.
Mm-mm. My very first bigger show, it was this guy who runs a bunch of shows in Chicago named Mikey O, and he, I went to his show because I was taking my students on a field trip to Europe, and we needed to do like huge fundraising, and so he runs these comedy shows that raise like thousands of dollars. And I was like, oh, maybe I could do one of those and just not be on it, but like just do the fundraiser. Mm-hmm. And so I went and I told with a friend of mine, a teacher friend, and I introduced myself, told him what we were doing. And I mentioned that I just started comedy like a few months ago. And he's like, oh, I'm going to put you up. And I was like, no, God, no. It was like 500 people. I was like, oh God. And he's like, well, think about it. And I was like, I can't turn it down. And so I went up, ate a huge dick, and my friend was videotaping on her phone. She was recording me, and I was like, send it to me. And she's like, I will. To this day, has not.
Were any students
saved
there?
My career. No.
Oh goodness.
But
okay.
Yeah, but I don't think I would still be doing comedy, in all honesty, if it wasn't for Mikey O, because he kept like putting me up every like couple, like he'd be like, come back in 3 months, and I would, and he would put me up in front of these huge crowds, and I would see what it could be, and I was like, I love this, Otherwise, you're stuck at open mics for the first like year, 2 years, and then it's like brutal, and so yeah, he pretty much single-handedly kept me in comedy, and then when I started getting booked more and more, and it's, the best. And now that room is like one of my favorites to go up in because it's just like a murder room.
Yeah, yeah. And you can handle it now.
Yeah.
When did you take the leap to New York?
I moved to New York after I quit teaching.
Wow.
I moved with Jeff Sheen and Josh Johnson.
Oh, great.
Yeah. And we all lived together for like three years probably.
In New York?
Yeah.
In like a studio or like was it?
No,
was it
in
Slim
like
Pickens?
it was like just a 2-bedroom, and then we put a wall up, and we're poor.
Well, that's what I mean. I've had comic friends who moved to New York, and it was like one room, and they just put up like a sheet, and it's like 4 comics or something.
Oh, I think that the next place that at least one of those guys moved to that's not Josh Johnson was we had a sheet for a wall. Yeah. Like, what are you guys doing? They're like, we don't know.
Comedy. Yeah. We're comedians.
They're like, you have to sacrifice for the game.
Yep.
Like, a wall? The whole wall? That's crazy.
Stability? Okay.
Yeah, New York is definitely a much different animal, I think, than coming up in Chicago, for sure.
Yeah.
Because Chicago is like a party city. Like, comedy is like, you do comedy, you all go to the mics, and then you hang afterwards, and it's just fun, right? And in New York, it's like you when you're first starting there, you're going to mics and just jumping, and then you're exhausted and going home, or like you're going to shows, then you have another spot. Nobody hangs as much because they're working so much harder, but and it's just such a bigger scene, So it's definitely it was a definite wake up. I would say, yeah.
How'd you get going in the scene? I mean, did you move with like leads on shows, or was this like a leap of faith?
Yeah,
like,
kind of a little bit of leads, and just like, we knew I had been going to New York a little bit, and so I knew some people there, and I think that's important. Like any scene that you're thinking about moving to, like I would go at least like at least like 5 times probably before you make that leap. And I would be checking out other scenes also.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was debating between LA and New York, and it just came down to like I just happened to like I had just been making out with a lot more guys in New York than LA. And I was like, I think
that's how you get stage time. Oh, okay.
no, not even. They weren't even comics, but I was like, I think that I just feel better in New
Oh,
York.
nice. Okay.
Like, yeah. But you know, it's that life balance,
Of course,
that I no longer have. That was important.
Yeah. So how did you end up in Austin? Like, are you visiting right now? Is that what you're doing?
I visit. I kind of split my time during the pandemic. Like I know I was in Brooklyn in my apartment for like a year, and I was just like, this is too much. Like it was just a lot. And so I bought a car. Oh, and the Creek in the Cave, which is in Austin now, used to be in New York.
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
in LIC, Long Island City. And they closed there, opened here, and the owner's Rebecca Trent is a good friend of mine. And so I was like, oh, I'll just come down and hang for a little bit. And I liked it here. You know, I grew up in Kansas City, and so it's kind of like the same vibe a little bit. And it's easier to live here. And so I was spending more time here, but I was splitting. I'm going to be spending a lot more time, though, in New York now that I've done my album. And so.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
you're going back up there.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I'm hoping to do it like maybe like 25-75 or I don't know. We'll see.
Wow.
But I do really like Austin. The scene it's growing and it's really supportive. And, you know, there's like different like nooks and crannies in it that are pretty cool. So.
But New York, I guess, is where you can really like forge, get a lot of stage time, and really
like find your careers, you know, maybe a little bit like through more than just stand up, like with writing and stuff like that too. And so we'll see. I don't know.
Is that what you want to do? Is get more into the writing side of things too?
I want to write for either my own show or I would love to write for a show and then and do stand up at night. Like that's my dream for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
What would be the show you would want to write for the most beyond your own?
Beyond my own.
Yeah.
Ooh, good question then.
Okay, that's cool. I was just trying to get a feel for your
I
writing.
like the type of writing I like doing would be like Archer type of writing.
Fun. Okay. Yeah. Writing is such. I mean, it's such a muscle, and like writing stand up is one thing, but then writing scripts and all of that is like a whole
like
other
the
muscle.
Character development and all of that.
Yeah, it's a whole other skill set that I guess writing's not what I've learned from interviewing so many people about writing is like it's not fun for anyone. Like everyone has to like to force themselves to write. It's just the successful people, like the ones that it's their job, are the ones that actually like force themselves to do it.
Yeah, like
basically.
they take it as a job before it's even their job. Like it's their job to get the job, you know? And so, and I definitely need to focus more on that part of it too, because I feel like I've been like slacking lately, just focusing on the joke part of this. So
But you were doing the album, like so you climb that mountain type deal. So I was trying to give you a little room there of like, you're killing it basically. So we all in our heads can be like, oh, I could be doing more and this and that.
Right.
But like,
Yeah. Well, I think it's like when the money is coming in, it's like, I'm doing a lot. But when the money's not, you're like, what am I doing?
For sure. Oh, instantly.
Yeah.
Instantly. Like, oh, I figured it out. I'm on top of the world. Oh, I hate myself. I'm going back to Enterprise Rent a Car. This is just the worst.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you write every day? Or like, what's your discipline there?
I probably do write every day, but I don't like go to the coffee shop at 3 p.m. and stay until 5 and, but I kind of write before mics or before shows, or I'll write, like if I run into some friends, or I'll plan a little writing session with friends or something. But I probably sit down and write by myself like twice a week, right before shows, probably 2 or 3 times a week, and then like the rest just like joke shopping.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're chipping away at it then.
Yeah, for sure.
I find most of mine isn't even like trying to. A lot of the times I end up just like journaling. I'm just like forcing myself to sit down and do something.
And just actually like write.
Yeah. And then sometimes the momentum will take me into developing jokes or whatnot. And sometimes I journaled, cool, that's enough. And it just kind of keeps the ritual, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, because there are times when you're just like, I don't have it in me to like joke or write about jokes today. Like I'm in such a bad mood, you know, or
Yeah.
whatever it is that you're just like, ooh.
Like
But,
whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, I do try. I think writing like the like script style stuff is much harder for me to get into though. I will say that.
Oh, it seems so daunting. It is just like,
Yeah, because it's like this huge thing where it's like when it's your joke, it's like that's the end of the joke.
yeah. Yeah. And if it doesn't work on stage, you can tweak it or whatnot. But with a script, it's like you have to do this whole thing, and then you figure out the response, and then what you need to like refine and stuff.
Yeah, and it just gets to be daunting. It's a lot.
But you're gonna have your own show. That's so exciting.
I don't know, maybe.
Oh, I was speaking it into
yes, we are
existence,
gonna have,
right?
Yes,
Should I not?
I am going to have.
You
my
were
own
so
show.
like affirming on me, so I was like, I want to be affirming. You are gonna have this
Thank
show.
you. I was like, oh, he misunderstood what I said. And now people are gonna be like, you lying bitch. I'm like, no.
Would you want it to be an animation like an Archer, or what would you want it to be?
I think I have like an idea for that, and then I have like I wrote a teaching pilot actually, just stemming from my first year of teaching and how wild it was because it was just insane. And so I just wrote like a pilot for that, which I would like to develop, but there's so many teaching shows that are out right now, and like Abbott Elementary is out, which now I'm like phenomenal,
So
right?
good.
And so
good.
it's just like you kind of gotta, I don't know, move on to the next thing or something, or maybe go back to that part later. I don't know.
Okay.
But the other thing is like your following has to be huge too for them to start paying attention to you. I'm not really sure that part of like the industry where they're like, here's what I've been told a couple times, but it's pre-pandemic, but I've been told like we love the script or we love this and we love that, but like nobody knows who she is yet. So like, what do you want us to do with her? I'm like, well, tell them who I am. Like,
Yeah.
can you do that?
Hey.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. And so it's like,
Interesting.
so I'm not really sure how to like break into that side of it yet.
Beyond just like doing it yourself, I guess. Like creating it yourself, which if like, yeah, you're like your following needs to be big or your bank account needs to just be empty, I guess. If you want to do it yourself.
Basically, which I have one of those things. So
see, we're on the right track. We're halfway there.
It's perfect.
Well, cool. Well, I mean, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you on here at this point in your career where you just record an album and you're really like, you're hitting that next chapter of your career. So that's my favorite part about this show is getting to interview people on the ascent. You know, you've already done a lot of cool things, but just the ascent is really cool that we can look back on this and do another one and be like, remember when you said I was going to do the show and then we did it? And then I'll be on there. I'll play the principal or something.
You can be the principal.
Or I'll be the counselor, maybe. I could be the school counselor.
Oh,
maybe.
yeah. I mean, it is.
And I'm just like the boyish. Yeah.
You're just going to get run over. Yeah.
For sure. Well, where what is there anything you'd like to promote or like anything else?
I mean, my album will be coming out
in
in July, so I'm really excited for that. I don't know what I'm gonna call it yet, but it's by Amy Shanker.
It's so exciting.
Yeah, and then you can find me on social media at Amy Shanker everywhere, and that's it. I'm in Austin. When does this come out?
I don't know yet. A couple weeks.
Okay, I'm in New York.
You'll be back in New York
Yeah.
doing shows and such.
Yeah, I'll be in New York. I'm gonna be I'm pretty excited to go spend some time there because I haven't done that in a minute. So hopefully it'll be, you know, I won't fall down the subway stairs again.
I mean, any friend I've had that moved to New York has had like a New York moment of like crying on the subway or something.
Oh
like that.
yeah. If you haven't cried in New York, like you're not a New Yorker. But I fell down the stairs though once, and it was like such a slow fall, and one of my roommates was just behind me, not helping me, and I would just move and fall down one step, and then he'd just take a step. And I'd be like, you're a dick, dude. He would not help me up, but just like watch me just go thunk, thunk. Step. Yeah.
Sound like a good friend. Yeah.
He's a horrible person.
So is that the grind in New York right now? Is you're just doing as many shows as possible? Is that
Yeah,
what it's like up
basically,
there?
I'm
Yeah.
writing. I'm going to be, I think, starting a podcast pretty soon, which I'm excited about because there's not enough. And then,
Definitely not. Definitely. Well, that's why
yeah.
I've been doing this one 6 years. I wanted
Right.
to,
And yours is the only one I've heard of. So
that's perfect. You know,
Yeah.
we made it. Yeah.
so that, yeah. And then I think I want to start a show there stemming from an old podcast that I had called The Most Expensive Joke, which is.
Oh yeah, didn't you do this here?
I
You
did it
some
here as
here?
a show once, and
Okay.
just to like kind of see how it goes. We had Tone Bell, Rojo
Yeah, he's
Perez.
great. Yeah.
It was so fun. But it's about the situation that costs you like the most in life, whether it's like mine is being arrested at LaGuardia and it cost me a lot of money, but like people have, like divorce or like therapy or relationships. Some guy started like a forest fire. Like there's just been like tons of different stories, and we've had great comics on, and I think I want to start it as like maybe a live podcast show.
Yeah.
I
That
think it
sounds
would be
great.
pretty fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So
I would like to
yeah,
hold you
there's some
accountable
stuff
to
to.
that. I'd like
Please
to.
do.
We need anyone listening. We need accountability buddies out there to DM you and be like, "Have you started that yet?" That sounds like a great idea.
I do need that. Yeah, I need that motivation extrinsically because I don't. I'll just be like, meh.
Well, some of my favorite things to do in this is when a guest reaches out after their show's released and is like, "Wow, people like reached out and they like had questions and they were grateful for like the information I shared." So I'm hoping people do that with this one. People listening.
I would love that. I
Yeah.
really would, because it's it's good to get a sense of if people do want to hear about that stuff, before you're like, I'm gonna dedicate so much time to this, and then like it's just a bust. It's like, all right.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep an eye out for it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there any closing advice for young comics out there you'd like to share?
Yes. I would say that if your heart's not in it, fucking quit. For sure.
Mm-hmm.
But if your heart is in it, stop stalling and put everything you have in it and just go for it. Like, what are you doing? Because time goes pretty fast.
Boom. Amy Shanker, thanks for being on Hot Breath.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Boom. Hot Breath.